One of the most recognizable names in the pantheon of great Negro League ball players was James Thomas Bell, aka Cool Papa Bell. Bell is recognized as one of the fastest players to ever grace the diamond. Satchel Paige had this to say about his speed. "One time he hit a line drive right past my ear. I turned around and saw the ball hit him sliding into second." Another instance in which Paige referenced Bell's speed is of a story he told when the two were sharing a hotel room. He said Bell would hit the light switch and be under the covers before the light went out. Cool Papa Bell played in a segregated era in baseball, when black players were not allowed to play in the majors. However, the Negro Leagues offered a place for black players. The Negro Leagues featured some of the greatest of all time. James Bell was born on May 17, 1903 in Starkville, Mississippi. According to the 1910 census, he was the fourth of 7 children. His first entrance into baseball occurred while in high school when he played semi-pro baseball with the Compton Hill Cubs in St. Louis, Missouri. He was a featured knuckleball pitcher. After the Compton Hill team folded, he moved on to East St. Louis Cubs. While with this team, he was paid $20 a week to pitch, a pretty good sum in those days. His legendary nickname came about when he joined the Negro National League's St. Louis Stars. In his first season, he struck out one of the all-time greats, Oscar Charleston. Teammates called him Cool after that, but James embellished the nickname by adding Papa to the moniker because he thought the combo of Cool Papa sounded good. Due to his speed, Stars manager Bill Gatewood wanted to transition Cool Papa from the pitching mound to the outfield and urged him to practice his defensive skills. Additionally, he began to learn how to become a switch hitter as well. His defensive skills were lackluster at first. Bell lacked the arm strength to make good throws, however his speed gave him a distinct advantage. Bell would play shallow in the outfield and use his elite speed to track down the ball. Additionally, grounders that made it through the infield allowed Bell to get to them faster and throw out runners at first on what would be easy singles. As a hitter, he was feared, not for his power, but for his ability to get on base and then wreak havoc on the base paths. Pitchers were hesitant to walk him because of this fact. The Negro Leagues were built on this type of baseball known as small ball. While there were definitely great sluggers in the Negro Leagues, many teams relied heavily on bunting, grinding out walks, and stealing bases. This style of play fit Bell's skill set perfectly. Bell talked about this style of play, and he said, "We played a different kind of baseball than the white teams. We played tricky baseball. We did things they didn't expect. We'd bunt and run in the first inning. Then they would come in for a bunt and we'd hit away. We always crossed them up. We'd run bases hard and make the fielders throw too quick and make wild throws. We'd fake a steal home and rattle the pitcher into a balk." From my personal perspective, this sounds like psychological warfare. The goal of many of these Negro League teams was to get into the head of the other team and make them feel that they never knew it was coming. Bell remained with the St. Louis Stars from 1922 until 1931 when the NLL unfortunately disbanded due to financial constraints associated with the Great Depression. During the 1930s, Bell had a varied career and played for several teams. This was an era of baseball that players played all year long. He spent time in the Mexican Winter Leagues and was with the Homestead Grays and the Kansas City Monarchs from 1932 to 1934. He found a long-term home with the Pittsburgh Crawfords from 1933 to 1938. These Crawfords teams featured some of the greatest Negro Leaguers of all time, including pitchers Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson. When owner Gus Greenlee defaulted on paying players' salaries, several players including Gibson, Bell, and Paige left the team and went to Latin America to play for a team assembled by Rafael Trujillo, the dictator of the Dominican Republic. Trujillo was one of the bloodiest dictators in Latin American history. It is believed his regime was responsible for the deaths of over 50,000 people. He was extremely corrupt and was even linked to several international assassination attempts, including the attempted assassination of Venezuelan President Romulo Betancourt, among others. Bell was now right in the heart of a turbulent regime, but he was playing baseball with some of the Negro League's best players. The Los Dragones of 1937 included players mentioned above, plus several other Latin and Cuban stars to create a super team. One of the main controversies surrounding the Latin American exodus of some of the Negro League greats was the Latin American baseball season, which was during the Negro League season. Negro League players were not allowed to play for any other teams while under contract with their Negro League squads. Trujillo personally enlisted Satchel Paige to recruit the best Negro Leaguers to defect to Los Dragones. With the default on player salaries, Crawford's owner Gus Greenlee had to sit back and watch his team fall apart around him and watch his stars head south for the 1937 season. The Los Dragones won the 1937 Latin American Championship. Paige, Gibson, and Bell were great. However, Trujillo was not pleased with his investment and disbanded the league and team a year later. Many of the players feared for their lives if they lost, and it was high time to leave. There would be no organized baseball in the Dominican Republic for another 14 years. After playing for Los Dragones, Cool Papa Bell bounced around the Mexican leagues. He was one of the best players in Mexico at this time. Between 1938 and 1941, he hit .356 and .354. In the 1940 season, he hit a whopping .437 with 12 home runs and 79 RBIs, and was the first Mexican leaguer to win a Triple Crown. Of his 12 home runs, 8 were inside the park. While in Mexico, his career average was .367. Bell was dominant. He did end up returning to the U.S. in 1942 to play for the Chicago American Giants. In '43, he joined the Homestead Grays. The Grays would win league titles in '43 and '44, but lost the Negro League World Series in 1945. In the 1946 season, he hit .396 at the age of 43. One of the main themes that permeated the Negro Leagues and other non-major league teams was the keeping of stats. Stats were not as meticulously compiled as they were in the majors. Despite that, Bell had a .341 average in his Negro League career. In exhibition games against major leaguers, he hit .391. His post-baseball career saw him as a player-manager for Negro League farm teams as well as a part-time scout for the St. Louis Browns. Bell's legacy was cemented in 1974 when he became the 5th former Negro Leaguer to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He joined Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, Monty Irvin, and Buck Leonard, who had all been inducted between 1971 and 1973. Sadly, Bell passed away in 1991 of a heart attack, but his legacy remains. He is a member of the MLB All-Century team, and in 1999 was ranked as the 66th greatest player of all time by the Sporting News. Cool Papa Bell had one of the most varied careers in baseball. His speed and hitting tools were generational. All-time great players, regardless of league, he is in the conversation as one of the best and well-known players to ever hit the diamond. Thank you again for watching this episode from Everything Has History. Please give a like, share this video, and subscribe. Also, comment down below with your thoughts on the legacy of Cool Papa Bell. And I'll see you on the next episode from Everything Has History.